Well, Shamima Begum has lost her latest appeal to overturn the UK government's decision that removed her British citizenship. So Begum's lawyers argue that the Home Office were acting unlawfully, partly because of their failure to consider the now 24-year-old as a potential victim of trafficking. Well, the Court of Appeal say that Begum must now stay in Syria.
For these reasons, we unanimously dismiss the appeal. It could be argued that the decision in Ms Begum's case was harsh. It could also be argued that Ms Begum is the author of her own misfortune.
It certainly could. Now, responding to the court's decision, the Home Office said it was pleased. Well, this is how Begum's solicitors reacted.
We are going to keep fighting. I want to say that I'm sorry to Shamima and to her family that after 5 years of fighting, she still hasn't received justice in a British court. And to promise her and to promise the government that we're not going to stop fighting.
It says that the core factual history remains the same. As a 15-year-old British child, she was lured, encouraged and deceived for the purposes of sexual exploitation. Do you buy that? Joining us today to discuss this verdict is human rights lawyer Shoaib Khan and a man who spent 2 years working with and in and around Shamima Begum, which is filmmaker Andrew Drury. Chaps, thank you very, very much. Andrew, I'll start with you. So you know Shamima better than, frankly, most people, OK?
Yep.
Do you think she should be coming home?
No, quite factually no, because I know her as a person. I spent, say, 2 years. I gave her an opportunity at the beginning. I worked a character out, and by the time that I left and the last time I spoke to her, no, not sure, she's a manipulator.
Could you just expand on that a bit before we go to Shoaib there? So what do you mean by manipulator?
Well, when I first met her, I saw this kind of frightened little rabbit as I met her, and she was kind of apologetic for everything she'd done. She'd understand what she had done. And then over a period of time, through text messages she sent to me from the camp and loads of visits, I changed my opinion. There was, if I can let you know how I changed my opinion, she had 3 kids that died. She showed me a picture from her purse. She pulled out one of these pictures with a child with like chocolate around her face. And it kind of made me a little bit sad. So when I got back, I sent her a message saying, I'm sorry, Shamima, it really made me upset seeing your picture of your dead children. She said, don't worry about that, Andrew. I'm over that now. She showed no empathy.
OK, all right. Shoaib, your views on it then. I think you think we should have her back now.
Yes, of course. I mean, to be honest, I think that in terms of her personality, what she's like as a person, her character, I think that forms a very, very small part of this whole saga, of this whole jigsaw. That's a really tiny part of it. It doesn't really matter what she's done. If that's a crime, that's a crime. That's bad enough. I don't think we really need to be punishing her extra. Is she a nice person or not? If she at the time, she had been crying about her children, would we have her back? I don't think those things matter anyway. The whole point is she is British. She was born in the UK, as far as we know, and I think it's probably accepted now. She's never been to Bangladesh. She's never been to, she has no other nationality. She was British, born here, raised here. She became what she became here. Yes, to be honest, we don't even know what crimes she has committed. But even if we accept she's committed some heinous crimes, yes, lots of people in the UK have. We punish them according to our laws. We treat them as British. So okay. The point is she should be allowed back home. This is her home. The Syrian camp is not
Andrew,
her home.
I'll put that to you that, hey, lots of people in Britain have committed heinous crimes. I'm not sure sewing someone into a suicide vest would count as that. But anyway, go on, your view.
Well, what about the victims? We hear all apologise about her, poor Shamima. What about the victims in Raqqa? What about the victims in Syria that were fear of ISIS, what she was part of? What about, she was Hizbah, the morality police? What about the people that she's taught, she's involved, she's given fear to? What about those people? What rights they got? I hear all this sort of, heartfelt about bringing her back. What about those? Have you ever thought about the victims? She legitimised the bombing of Manchester. Do you really want somebody like that back walking around your streets?
Shoaib?
Again, I don't understand. In terms of we're talking about the victims, and firstly, I don't think I ever said there's very few people who would say poor Shamima. That's not the point. The point is she was British. She's not Bangladeshi. Why should the Bangladeshis have her? If we're saying, no, she is stateless, if we admit that, she's going to, stay in a Syrian camp, that's what she shows, that's a different thing. But for people who say she's not stateless and she goes to Bangladesh, that's complete rubbish. Why?
So would you, just to get to the bottom of that then, so would you be happy for her to stay where she is then? Because it's not actually just as binary a choice as, well, it's Britain or Bangladesh. I mean, she is currently somewhere else. She could just stay there, Shoaib. I mean, or are you desperate to have her back here?
I'm not desperate to have her back, but I think that's right. I think her citizenship should not have been revoked. I think that's quite a medieval concept, banishing or exiling people. A civilized society doesn't do that. We punish people, we prove in court what they've done, we lock them up. Some people we lock up, people die in prison in the UK. We still don't, we don't push them into the ocean or push them off the cliffs of Dover or push them into another country. That's not what we do. We used to do that centuries ago, send all the criminals off to another prison island. We don't do that anymore. We shouldn't do that with her.
But, I mean, the criminal in this case, Andrew, sent herself off to an island. So can I just ask you, Andrew, a couple of points on this? So a lot of people say, oh, look, she was only 15 at the time. A lot of those people, by the way, there seems to be a crossover in the Venn diagram between those people who want votes for 16-year-olds and people who are simultaneously claiming Shamima didn't know what she was doing, by the way, but there we go. And people will say she was a child, and people will say that obviously she's our responsibility now and that she can be de-radicalised. So your views on that?
Well, according to her, she has been de-radicalised by herself. I think she's been there too long, for a fact. And one point I'd like to make about her coming home, we don't have that choice anyway, because there's a good possibility she'll face her justice in Syria. She could, I would imagine, their court system, she'll face trial over there and could be sentenced to about 20 years over there anyway. So I don't think we have that option. The citizenship, giving her citizenship, doesn't mean she's coming home. It just means that she's in a Syrian camp as a British citizen. And she certainly knew what she was doing when she went there. That 15, I've heard that age 15 talk so many times. She was a bright, intelligent, A-star student. She knew exactly what she was doing. She lived in an Islamic community. She knew what ISIS stood for. She went there with an open mind. And I hear about all this, that she was trafficked. She never once said she was trafficked. There was 4 girls got together and decided they was going to. That's what they were going to do.
So when you were talking to her, Andrew, was she saying things, I was trafficked for sexual exploitation? Was she saying that to you?
No, she said that when she got to Syria, she got a choice of husband. I know, you could say that was being trafficked, but she actually loved her husband. So when I first met her, she showed me happy pictures of her and her husband. I know you're shaking your head, but that's what she told me. I've met her, you haven't. She told me she loved him, and she continued that conversation for 3 or 4 months after we meeting. It was only when she was schooled by the other girls in the prison, she said he mentally abused her. So she changed her story all along. So you can shake your head, but that's a fact. As I say, I've met her.
Sorry, can I just respond to that? I mean, a 15-year-old, in the UK, any other British girl, 15-year-old living happily with a 23-year-old man, we'd say that's a happy marriage. She doesn't have to say she is. If she is a child living with a man, having sex, having babies with a man, we would say that's sexual exploitation. If she's under 18, she is. She doesn't have to tell us that. So why is it different for this woman? I really don't understand this point. She was happy with this man. What does that even mean? A 15-year-old... The difference
for that woman is her choice. She made that choice.
That is not a choice in the UK. That is not a choice. Under 18, you cannot consent.
She wasn't in the UK when she got married. It was her choice. She left the UK.
So the law shouldn't be... Sorry, but that's such a ridiculous thing to say. Isn't that exactly what child grooming is? All child grooming victims are happy.
How do you know she was groomed? What evidence have you got of grooming? Tell me your evidence of her being groomed.
The evidence was she was a 16-year-old with a baby. That is all the evidence we need of grooming.
There's no evidence that she was trafficked. There was no evidence she was groomed.
To be fair, Shoaib, I mean, what is the age of consent in Syria?
Sorry, why are we talking about Syria? She was British at the time. She went from Britain.
She was over there, though, wasn't she?
Is that how we deal with pedophilia or other cases? If a British man goes to Syria and has, a child with a 15-year-old Syrian, that's fine because he's in Syria? Of course it is.
It depends on the law in the place, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't.
It's 15, I've just been told in my ear, apparently the age of consent in Syria is 15. Actually.
Yeah, so many paedophiles we do bring back and punish them here because we treat them according to our laws. Not that
you seem to be forgetting the point that she went. It was nobody's fault.
No, but
she went
there.
So
just to clarify the trafficking point, it has been the courts have accepted she was a victim of trafficking. Even the
does that excuse Shoaib? Okay. In fact, I'm quite keen to get to the bottom of this as well, Shoaib, actually. Who is paying for her appeals, constant appeals? Sherry?
To be honest, I wouldn't know, but I'm assuming she's probably getting legal aid, yeah. It would probably be the British taxpayer. I would assume
It's also
so.
by Reprieve, a charitable organisation.
Right. So it's a combination. So it's a combination of what we think the British taxpayer and a charitable organisation are paying for it. Right. Gosh. OK. Look, chaps. Thank you very much. It's a cracking head-to-head. It's exactly what we wanted. So we'll have to get you back on and do this next time she launches an appeal, probably. That is, of course, the human rights lawyer Shoaib Khan and the man who spent a couple of years working around Shamima Begum. That is the filmmaker Andrew Drury.